Hello, colleagues. This is Linda Michaels, and today I want to share with you my critical issue presentation on leadership succession planning in higher education. I want to start by sharing an example from the University of Missouri. And recently, the University of Missouri was looking for its next college president. And as it sought to identify the qualities and characteristics they were looking for, came up with some pretty interesting things. The qualities included things like the university is seeking a president who can, quote, create an enduring social compact with citizens, end quote. And another quality, the university seeks a president who is, quote, a tireless advocate and relationship builder attentive to many highly varied constituents, end quote. According to Shelley Weiss Storbrook, the University of Missouri is, quote, looking for God on a good day. And yet, the University of Missouri is not unlike many institutions across the country. I would invite you to look at the Chronicle of Higher Education job ads for presidents, and I think you would quickly come to the same conclusion. So today, the critical issue presentation I want to share with you is about leadership in higher education, in particular the college presidency. And I think it's a critical issue for the 21st century and beyond for two main reasons. Number one, the role of the president is becoming increasingly complex with each passing year. And number two, higher education is anticipating a shortage of individuals who are interested in ascending to the presidency. So in this slide presentation, we will explore the presidency in higher education, specifically how leaders are identified, prepared, selected to become a college president. But first, let's take a deeper look at why this is a critical issue. As we know from the study of higher education, a university is a complex and decentralized organization. Thinking about your campus, what makes your university so complex? On the screen, you can see several examples of the complexity I found in the literature. A couple of the examples that stand out to me would include the ever-growing number of constituencies that we have to answer to, especially external constituents like legislators, parents, and the media. I think another piece that stands out to me in terms of the complexity is really the shift from our goal of creating lifelong learners to the expectation of student success. And this really has come about, I think, because of the perceived cost, high cost of higher education and the level of accountability that we experience today. As if these changing demands and increased scrutiny were not enough, the laundry list of core competencies for the university president is no walk in the park either. So thinking about your president and the complex role that he or she plays, what do you perceive to be the essential qualities of a college president? In looking at the list I found in the literature and in my own experience, a couple of things stand out. Presidents have to make very difficult choices and deal with shrinking resources. And I've noticed that presidents pretty much have to always be on, happy to work 15-hour days, nonstop, even on weekends. I think another key quality is being able to develop a strong leadership team for institutional success. So what is the problem in this critical issue? The problem is a pipeline issue. There are fewer and fewer leaders on college campuses that are willing to step up to the top spot. When you consider nearly half of all university presidents are over the age of 61, and faculty report that they are not interested in a role that they perceive has no autonomy and comes with increased scrutiny. And you also consider the lack of diversity in higher education leaders, with only 17% of women and minorities currently serving in senior administrative roles, and only 26% of all female chief academic officers indicating interest in the presidency. We need to see the college presidency as a critical issue. The college presidency is a critical issue in higher education today. And in studying this critical issue, Several questions came to mind. Take a minute to read those questions on the slide now. The remaining slides in this presentation will focus on a critical analysis of leadership identification, leadership competencies, leadership training and preparation, leadership succession planning, potential areas for further study, and some conclusions and recommendations based on the literature. As a side note, I invite you to expand your knowledge beyond this presentation by taking a look at the references on slide 12 and selecting a few for further reading and future study. So let's start by exploring leadership identification. The literature indicates a combination of interest, skills, and experience are essential in identifying leaders for the presidency, and early identification is key, so there's an opportunity to assist in support in professional development and growth. There are multiple entry points for the presidency among the academic faculty. In examining this, we should take a look at these traditional academic roles. First, what about the deans? It is the most logical path and the best chance to find the combination of experience and interest and skills, because deans do have experience leading diverse constituencies and solving complex problems. Deans also represent the administration to the faculty, so they are primed to lead at higher levels. What about department chairs? Well, because department chairs represent the faculty to the administration and are most often selected by seniority, they may not be the best source. Chairs representing faculty to the administration will develop skills and expertise in a more limited capacity, and often these chairs go back to the faculty ranks after serving as chair for a period of time. So what about faculty? As we know, leadership isn't always positional. Faculty who have the experience to work on campus-wide committees and projects and broad university assignments can try on administration. And faculty who lead in these capacities pull back the curtain to what is coined as the dark side of administration and may discover a potential career path as a benefit. In the case of faculty, cultivating interest in advancing their skills and experience is key. College and university presidents need technical, interpersonal, and conceptual skills. Technical skills are about the things that need to be done, like budgeting, fundraising, and enrollment management. Interpersonal skills are about people, and conceptual skills are about ideas. For example, seeing the university as a whole, yet understanding how different departments interact and depend on each other for success. College presidents also need political and administrative skills, and it's worth noting that values can impact leader behavior, values like honesty, courage, humility, and fairness, for example. To prepare to become a president, the literature outlines multiple methodologies, each with discrete challenges and positive outcomes, according to Koster. With doctoral programs, there is the opportunity for a leadership focus in higher education, much like Immaculatus program. And doctoral programs often include mentoring and experiential learning. Sometimes the risks are a lack of vision, purpose, and coherence in a doctoral program, and discipline-specific doctorates are not always the best at preparing people to become university leaders because they focus on a specific discipline. Two examples of best practice in doctoral programs include the University of Colorado and the College of William and Mary, and I would encourage you to check them out online. Another methodology, professional development programs, provide the intensive exploration of issues, skill building opportunities, and again, mentoring. Some of the risks of these programs are weak content and pedagogy and selection criteria, and they study leadership in isolation, not looking at the leader in terms of outcomes on the organization and on other people within the organization. Several examples of best practices of professional development programs include Harvard's Institute for Education Management, the American Council on Education's ACE Fellowship, and the American Association for State College and Universities Executive Leadership Academy. These are intensive and selective programs that are cohort-based and structured experiences with readings and discussions and networking and coaching. Another option for leadership development is university programs. And these are programs on campuses. And the benefits of these programs include being able to build a pipeline of women and minorities in leadership roles. These programs often motivate employees and enhance shared governance. Some of the risks are being able to generate interest on campus, the high cost, and trained leaders can leave the institution for opportunities on the outside. Some really good examples of university programs are the University of Georgia and Arizona State, and my favorite, the University of Texas at Brownsville. And they do a great institutional effort, very robust across institutional roles. They have the Provost Fellows Program for faculty, You Lead, which focuses on key aspects of leadership in higher education, and the Next Generation Academy for student affairs professionals. As critical as how leaders are identified and prepared is how higher education facilitates the succession of its leaders. As headlines in the Chronicle of Higher Education aptly illustrate, how presidents come and go can have a profound effect on an institution. So it's not only important to discuss what we're looking for in a president, but how we will actually find that individual. The case for national searches is longstanding in higher education for all the reasons that you would guess. A couple of things that stand out with this list that you see on the slide is that multiple stakeholders can be involved, creating a diverse goal set and objectives with regard to the ideal candidate, hopefully yielding a more diverse pool. Also, the preference for national search is driven by the desire for prestige. In other words, we're looking for the best candidate in the nation, not the best candidate in the institution. On the other side, one could make a strong case for looking internally. In his book, Good to Great, Jim Collins claims that companies with leaders that come from the inside have a competitive advantage because inside leaders know the organization intimately. Internal candidates are also viable when you consider the cost and toll on the institution to do a national search and the investment of time to find the president, transition the president, and move his or her agenda forward. A big benefit of internal candidates is that the institution has the opportunity to build a pipeline of women and minority leaders. Okay, so let's take stock of where we are at this point in the presentation. We know there's a shortage of leaders on the horizon. We know that the university environment and the university presidency is complex. We know that our future depends on our ability to identify and prepare leaders to lead. And we know considerations of external versus internal candidates as part of succession planning is critical. But what do we still need to know? In looking at that question, I turned to Uckel's article from 2012. And Uckel reports that there is a large body of work on theories and skills and traits when it comes to leadership research. However, he does identify that there are inconsistent and weak research methods around this topic in the literature, and the wide variety of definitions of leadership and the potential bias on the part of the researcher has led to a wide berth of conclusions and recommendations. Controlling for some of these weaknesses in the current literature, Uckel still believes that there is a wealth of topics and opportunities to explore leadership further. And some of those topics and opportunities are listed on this particular slide. Perhaps some of you might consider picking up one of these topics and doing your own research on leadership in higher education. Beyond the current and future literature, we can learn a lot from former presidents. In his article, Gonzalez refers to experienced leaders as Plato's ideal leader, a philosopher king, combining action with reflection. And these leaders should be considered prime sources of information on best practice along with the research. So it is short-sighted for us not to consider experienced presidents as a source of information on leadership. A compelling example comes from Harvard President Emeritus Derek Bok. A celebrated leader, Bok had no opportunity to study higher education before finding himself in a major leadership role. Only after his 20-year service as Harvard's president from 71 to 91 did he have a chance to study higher education. Through his research post-presidency, he realized he would have done some things very differently. When Derek Bok was tapped to be Harvard's president for a second time, he had the benefit of experience and reflection behind him, and thus was Plato's ideal leader, the quote-unquote philosopher king, when he served as Harvard's president the second time around. So experience and reflection is indeed a powerful combination for us to learn more about the leadership of the college presidency. So what do we do with all of this information on the previous slides? Well, I think we can draw some conclusions and also make some recommendations. First, the conclusions. Higher ed institutions are complex organizations, and the presidential role is becoming increasingly more complex. We are experiencing a leadership shortage in higher education, and it's really going to be important for us to expand the diversity of leadership as well. So understanding these conclusions, we can draw out some recommendations around three key areas: the mentoring, professional development planning, and exposure. With mentoring, it'll be important to establish programs within professional organizations, on campuses, and in graduate programs, especially for young professionals in the first 10 years. The literature supports early intervention, and experienced and retired leaders are great options for mentors for young professionals in the discernment of their career path and future leadership opportunities. Around professional development plans, professional associations could promote leadership by conducting and disseminating research and training on the portfolios of leaders. An example of this would be the core competency list that was developed by the American Association of State College and Universities for their Executive Leadership Academy. Additionally, professional development plans in these programs need to address gaps in experience as well as an understanding of the leader's impact on outcomes and others. And finally, exposure is key, offering career ladders through administrative work on campuses around policy, problem solving, committee work, as well as establishing non-traditional routes to the presidency for faculty and staff will help to grow the pool of individuals who would aspire to become the president. Additionally, all doctoral programs should be required to include courses on higher education so that every newly minted PhD has an understanding of the trends in higher ed, the complex problems in higher ed, and the history of higher education. And this will allow them to come onto campus and contribute in a substantive way and become the epitome of shared governance. So through the conclusions and through the recommendations, we definitely have options to address the critical issue that we're faced with. So we've come to the conclusion of this presentation. What will you do with the information? If you were charged with selecting the next president of your university, what would you look for? God on a good day, a philosopher king, or a diverse leader? I invite you to do your own research as you ponder this important question, and thank you for working your way through this presentation with me.